Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for the segment, we have Michael Praeger, CEO of Nasdaq-listed AvidXchange, to discuss reinventing financial services far beyond the U.S. Michael, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks, Jill. Happy to be here.
And let's talk about fintech industry growth. I mean, some stats suggest we could be looking at nearly $700 billion by 2030. Let's get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think, it's interesting. We've been at this a long time. We got started in 2020, long before kind of fintech was actually a word. And we kind of always thought about as the intersection of bringing kind of automation to traditional, financial processes. And I think when you look at, kind of what's happened and, the current dynamic of what's happening today and where the impact and the value proposition is so, massive for, client companies, is using automation and all the different automation tools that are now available through technology to really take both paper and, human, business process and automate it in a much, in a way that, creates a much better user experience, as well as a much more efficient, timely, access to information for the core customer. And I think that's what we're really excited about in terms of what we do at AvidXchange, in terms of, automating the accounts payable and the payment process for middle market companies.
And fintech mergers and acquisitions were quite strong for 2021. What's your expectation for deals as we get through 2022?
I think we're going to see, that slow down, a little bit. I think, we're certainly seeing that at AvidXchange as well, from the standpoint of, one, the uncertainties of the general market in terms of, what's happening with different valuation levels, and whether those have, kind of filtered into the private markets yet or not. And I think in terms of, companies like AvidXchange and others are going to be pretty cautious in terms of using, how much, their cash and how much balance sheet cash they're going to use, for certain acquisitions, as well as kind of some of the uncertainties in the current environment related to, valuation levels. So I think all that kind of, is going to be, really probably, key factors in how much M&A we get done this year. I do think probably the second half of the year is going to be a little bit better than the first half of the year as companies start getting more clarity around, maybe, what some of these future components look like. But I know, we're still, active in the market in terms of evaluation of opportunities as they come available. But we're going to be really selective and really strategic around, how we deploy, both, AvidXchange balance sheet cash, as well as, using our stock for these type of transactions.
And Michael, let's talk about international expansion, because one of the premises behind fintech is democratization and access for all, providing, banking for the unbanked. It incorporates all of that. So what does this look like globally?
Yeah, so I think, one of the things is, fintech, everything gets bucketed into these massive, kind of categories. But I think what we like to do is kind of really break it apart, and specifically for, AvidXchange and what our world is and what we impact. It's very specific to one business process, which is accounts payable automation. Very simply, how companies pay their bills, limiting the paper invoice and limiting the paper check. And when you think about that, these business processes are very specific to countries. Payment systems, in terms of how companies pay their bills, are very specific to, country payment systems. And then within a country, ecosystem, it really gets very specific around different vertical markets that are, within a country. And so, for example, today we at AvidXchange, we have over 8,000 customers in the U.S. market, and they're very focused in, 8 or so very specific industry segments. And I think, so one of the, what I'd say, I caution people on is, you really have to kind of get down to the next level of detail in any market to really understand how a company's impacting that market, right? Versus trying to bucket, what we're doing on B2B payments compared to what somebody else may be doing in the consumer market.
And to wrap up here, tell us more about AvidXchange. We know in 2021, you completed the transition to the public company listing on Nasdaq. Tell us about your results for the year and your outlook for 2022.
Yeah, so we're really excited. We executed our listing day on October 13th, and end up having a great, kind of ending our first year as a public company, being 2021. Announced recently, record results of revenue growth for the year of 34%. To just under 250 million in terms of overall revenue. And when we look at some of those metrics that really drive our business, it's both sets of customers that we have. So we increased our core buyer customers, we call it, the customers that use our software to automate their key business processes for accounts payable and payments. That number grew from 7,000 customers to 8,000 customers over the course of the year. And then the supplier side of it, our core supplier customers grew to over 825,000 suppliers that are now on the AvidPay network. And I think if there's kind of one metric that we're really kind of proud about, which really demonstrates the the customer experience, is our metric around the retention of transactions on our network. And that number grew to 107% last year. And I think that really demonstrates in terms of, I call it the stickiness factor, in terms of the value proposition that we're delivering to our customers.
All right, Michael, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks for having me, Jill.